Good morning. We're going to go ahead and get started. Is this too loud?
No, it's good.
No, it's good.
Okay. It is a pleasure to be here with all of you on this beautiful, warm Saturday, Texas morning. And I thank you for dedicating a portion of your weekend to art history. On behalf of the Department of Art and Art History and the Art History Association, I'd like to welcome you to the University of Texas at Tyler's third annual Art History Symposium. I'd like to extend a special welcome to our speakers, students, and faculty who are here from out of town, especially those from the University of North Texas and the University of Louisiana at Lafayette. Thank you all for being here. My name is JoBeth Cox, and I'm a UT Tyler graduate student of art history, the secretary of the Art History Association, and 1/4 of the symposium committee. Last year in the opening comments, I referenced, of course, the ancient Greek symposium, which in fact was a Greek drinking party. And I think it's good to acknowledge the origin of the symposium, especially for those of you who haven't attended one before. And for those of you who were here last year, I'm not going to use the same ancient Greek party joke again, but I will tell you that under everyone's chair is a toga and a glow stick, so do what feels natural. We're having fun. I'm particularly happy and honored to be opening this year's symposium because it has attracted a diverse group of accomplished undergraduate and graduate student speakers whose subject matter is complex, provocative, and really all over the map. Today's speakers will present their original research with approximately 10 minutes of questions afterward, and as students, this is valuable experience. As audience members too, this is valuable exposure to a wide range of thought-provoking topics. Our presenters this year are inspired by issues of identity, like race, gender, social status, by religion and tradition, by place and space, like urban development and uncharted territories, and by neatly hemmed fashion statements that are more than what meets the eye. We will break for lunch at 12 and resume presentations at 1:30 afterward. We are excited this year to welcome our guest speaker, Derek Frazier, who is the interpretation manager at the Tyler Museum of Art. He will be speaking at 3 o'clock after the students have presented, so thank you for being with us, Derek. I'd like to also thank our 3 illustrious judges who joined us today to provide constructive critique to our speakers. Thank you to Chris Leahy, Executive Director of the Tyler Museum of Art. Thank you to Kelsey Sparkman, Education Coordinator at the Tyler Museum of Art, and Paula McDermott, Instructor of Art at Tyler Junior College. Each speaker will receive notes from our judges and a numerical score following all presentations. The speaker with the highest score will be awarded a small prize. Thank you to members of the UT Tyler Art History Association and Art Association who have generously volunteered their time today. We also thank our UT Tyler faculty who are here today, and we'd especially like to recognize Dr. Elizabeth Lasso-Nelson and Dr. Kaya Magnuson, our art history faculty, for advising and supporting the organization of this event. Once again, this is UT Tyler's 3rd annual Art History Symposium, and I sincerely hope you enjoy the day. I'd now like to introduce our first speaker. Sydney Wilson is graduating this year with a Bachelor of Arts in both Art History and English from UT Tyler. Her research interests include West African folk art, contemporary American folklore, mythic narrative, and representations of shamanism. Sydney studied in Ghana last summer, where she worked closely with artists, craft makers, and consumers in the textile industry, leading to her current research. Please welcome Sydney Wilson.
So my presentation today is called No Maker's Mark, Art and Controversy in Ghanaian Kente and Adinka. So, as Ghana develops as a nation, so must traditional Kente weaving and Adinka stamping if their success is to continue as the country's artistic impression on the world. To preface the evolutionary discourse, it is key to understand the roots of Ghana's textile industry. Both Kente and Adinka are textile arts developed by the Asante people, a subgroup of Ghana's largest ethnicity, called the Akan. They are primarily stamped and woven in the Ashanti region. Kente cloth is a woven silk and cotton cloth that uses simplified designs to illustrate proverbs and folklore. It is woven in strips, which are then woven together, forming a large blanket-like cloth that is draped around the body. Traditionally, it is worn by only the royal as everyday wear, and is worn ceremonially by the public for celebrations and mourning, corresponding to the Asante color culture. Royal roots are traced to its origin story that is accepted to have occurred in the 17th century. The cloth is said to have been woven by two Aman Henes, or lesser Asante chiefs, who were awestruck and inspired by a spider weaving its web. So they wove their own cloth in its likeness and presented it to the Asante Hen, the chief king of the Asante people, and called it Kente, coming from the Akan word meaning woven basket. The word is Kente, by the way. While the story has many iterations across Asante land and Ghana as a whole, this is the foundation of the tale from which all versions are derived. However, because of the fluid nature of oral history, Kente's designs change to adapt to the political and cultural climates of Ghana in each generation. Adinkra cloth, which you see being made here in these images, is a cloth stamped with a permanent black ink made from tree bark from northern Ghana. It is also based largely in folklore. According to legend, Nana Adinkra was a Giaminhene, or chief, from today's Côte d'Ivoire, historically also part of the pre-colonial Asante land, and he was captured by Asante warriors. To display the sorrow of his capture to mourn, Nana Adinkra wore a stamped cloth, such as one would with Kente. Adinkra is unlike Kente in that, although it is also Asante in origin, it came to be shared by almost all ethnicities in Ghana at a much quicker rate. So, while each language may change in the title of one of the symbols, it does not change its meaning. They are universal. While both arts were originally relegated to the Ashanti region of Ghana, where Britain drew the cartographic and legal boundaries during Europe's colonization of West Africa, they are now traditionally created all over the country, and in varying regions by varying ethnicities, such as Ewe and Ga. This creates a bond between the arts, their ethnic peoples, and the nation's relationship with the communal creative outlet. As a folk art, Kente and Adinkra's foundation is a very much collectivistic one, or one that is created on behalf of a community rather than an individual. And so progress toward intellectual ownership is easily hindered and typically held at a steady arm's length. It is still broadly considered a national artistic output rather than the work of individual artists. Kente is typically woven and Adinkra stamped in rural areas and regions of Ghana, namely the Kente village called Wanyere and the Adinkra village in Tonso, where the communities possess little to no formal education. Thus, this lack of development as an art is rather a trade and substantially influenced by oral histories that flourish in these agrarian communities. Thus, Adinkra and Kente industries are inherently symptomatic of the patriarchal and collectivistic notions present in oral history, barring social progress from entering any sort of equation. Despite these legends and practices, however, there is certainly still pushback and therefore growth in the textile industry that supports an increasing female presence, struggle for support in the intellectual property realm, and its existence in the diaspora as an art rather than trade. As for a female presence in the Kente weaving industry, the rural and collectivistic nature of oral tradition is the primary inhibitor in their involvement. Dr. Boatima Boateng, Associate Professor at UC San Diego, discusses the evolution of how the industry has handled female involvement in her book, The Copyright Thing Doesn't Work Here. In her second chapter, The Women Don't Know Anything, Gender, Cloth Production, and Appropriation. She argues that, while one can certainly speak of male dominance, this does not account for the full extent of gender relations surrounding cloth production. Dr. Boateng is speaking of the Western feminist interpretation of women's oppression in Ghana, and how such analyses can mislead a person to conflate women's issues in Ghana to women's issues in the United States with the same universal problems. While there is undoubtedly a particular form of repression in the Kente industry, it is not the same as gender oppression in the United States or commonly seen in other Western developed countries. Instead, Dr. Boateng proffers that different modes of gendering around Adinkra and Kente do not result uniformly in female loss of power, meaning that while female role is below that of her male counterpart, it is not necessarily completely powerless, and is still necessary within the Ghanaian art market as a whole. However, there are women actively trying to participate in Kente weaving today. These few but resilient women, such as Yasmin Ka, referenced in Mariama Ross's article, The Evolving Art of Ashanti Kente Weaving in Ghana, are gradually but actively breaking down the walls of the Asante Convention and proving superstitious consequence all but right. The continued struggles trace their roots to the time in Ghana when women were considered unclean due to menstruation, and since Kente was the royal cloth, women were not allowed to weave any kind of cloth that could come in contact with royal skin, soil pigment. However, even as this tradition is passing due to advances in natural science venturing in public's common knowledge, rural collectivism and lack of informal education still mandate similar consequences originating in folktale logic. In present times, women are excluded from the industry by means of another circulating superstitious oral tale, that women will become barren should they participate in Kente weaving. Now, according to Ross, this is because of an enormous value placed on reproduction that comes from the rural collectivism of family-centered life. Although this is also a consequence for men who are involved in women's roles in the art market sewing. This superstitious tradition originates in fear of instability of role reversal and its consequence of survival in the community. Ross's research prompts readers to accept Dr. Boateng's theory that women's inferior roles in Ghana's culture are indeed unlike the female oppression in the U.S., but rather more akin to an unhinging on the presumed binary of African gender issues, where interdependence represents a truer picture of gender relations around cloth production rather than one of exclusive male dominance. That is not to say that the roles are as fluid as they are here in the United States, but rather that they are two separate worlds that interact with one another. Unfortunately, the roles are still in no way equal. In the case of Adinkra and Kente, Dr. Boateng writes, the gender division remains fairly rigid despite few attempts to cross it. Yasmin Ka, among other women, has done with her notably healthy babies. As for Adinkra stamping, there is significantly less research. However, a visit to any Adinkra workshop in Ntonso reveals a total absence of women and indicates that the same folkloristic policies are at play. Unlike in the case of Kente sales, women do not seem able to even sell Adinkra cloth in the traditional art market setting, even in Ntonso, the Adinkra village, at all. These few attempts and urbanization of the field support the growth of the industry, however. Ross highlights to her readers that in more urbanized areas, like Kumasi, the cultural capital in the Ashanti region of Ghana, few women are accepted as professional weavers and actually allowed to weave lesser quality kente because it is worn by ordinary people and tourists, despite the fact that women may not be allowed in any sort of royal weaving facility. This is major headway, yet, for the female gender, but also the industry's development as Ghana's middle class grows, which gives the industry some elbow room as it experiences growing pains, evolving into the 21st century, where folk tales are less and less accepted as truth. Dr. Boateng covers another area of kente in Adinkra's industry, struggle in the present day, copywriting and intellectual property. According to her third chapter, Your Face Doesn't Go Anywhere, many weavers in the past and present often acknowledged that the appropriation of their cloth design was a big concern. Due to the aforementioned collectivistic nature of these rural and agrarian communities, the artwork created by the kente weavers and Adinkra stampers is not as much considered art as still but a trade, and the trade is especially considered to be owned by the community, the village, the region, and the nation as a whole. So oftentimes, the work done by artisans in the countryside of Ghana that is sold countrywide and has by people who have no relation or connection to the artisan at all cannot be traced to the creator unless you visit the creation site and purchase from him directly, even though this violates the strict gender structure. In the case of Adinkra, it is much more broad and commonly adorned, though. Adinkra symbols are not copyrightable materials per se, as they are philosophical, proverbial, and religious symbols like the Christian cross, Star of David, and the Ottoman crescent moon star later adopted by Islam. However, these symbols continue to appear outside of the cloth strips in individually produced work, like sculpture, as well as mass-produced work, like lumber stickers. This is partially because, unlike Kente, Adinkra has spread much farther than Asante land and into Ghana's burgeoning national visual culture. Dr. Boateng writes that legal action in copywriting as the preservation of intellectual property is seen as musician's law and not artisans, due to a series of cases that began in the late 1970s. Because of the nature of the cases, the Kente weavers saw themselves as artisans, where the musicians were the artists. Perhaps this is because folk art begins as a trade rather than artwork, as artwork in non-industrialized nations is reserved for only the elite and the wealthy. Consequently, as Kente weaving still serves a practical purpose for the Asante and Ghanaian peoples, weavers still may be perpetuated and seen by the collective community as traders. This is still the case when those who trade the Kente are seldom those who weave it, as mentioned previously, even though they spend their entire lives working to master this art in soul and anonymity. Dr. Boateng concludes her comments on the intellectual property of Kente by saying, like Adinkra and Kente, indigenous music forms are also recognized as elements of national culture and subject to legal protection as folklore. So the new music under heavy Western influence being recorded from the 70s forward was marked by Western individualism and was stood out from the country and the community, unlike the shared folk art and ethnomusicology studies. There are weavers, however, that do recognize the need for change and enforcement in this intellectual property law, such as the music department. And Kente cloth is to succeed as an international art form based in Ghana and spread forward. Dr. Boateng's interactions with weavers, as documented in her chapter, show that the few weavers who do experience discomfort with the state of intellectual property law owe the inadequacy and effectiveness of the lack of the weavers' organization, suggesting that they felt that they were more likely to succeed in pressing for their interests in groups instead of individuals, which is proven to be fairly reductive in principle and practice. So there's only one weaver that Dr. Boateng discusses, one Nana Gabwa Jema, that is the only weaver in her study who has dealt with the legal system and succeeded. Dr. Boateng writes this of his efforts. His success as a cloth producer has led him to formally register his business as early as 1976, and he printed his registered business name and logo as an informal trademark symbol on each piece of cloth that he made to distinguish it from imitations made by competitors. As in the case of female presence in the Kente and Adinkra art, Nana Gabwa's case is an isolated one, but it is surely one of the few weavers working to own their own artwork and help break down the barriers of Kente and Adinkra's transition from trade to historical art form. As noted previously, Kente is an international apparel phenomenon worn by millions, and Adinkra is commonplace down to the home structure, thanks to the more positive consequences of the diaspora. However, according to Doran Ross, who has no relation to Mariana Ross mentioned earlier, of the Fowler Museum at the University of California, Los Angeles, writes in his book, Wrapped in Pride, that just as Kente has become increasingly a part of African American fashion, it has been gradually appropriated in fine and popular art created by Black Americans. James Phillips' piece, Self-Awareness, for example, especially highlights the ever-vibrant colors and common zigzag patterns and obvious strip designs that are inherent to Kente cloth. Larry Poncho Brown has painted 5 Ghanaian totem pieces where the heads rest atop Kente cloth strips with the Adinkra symbols woven into the bottom of each strip totem. Doran Ross specifically mentions Brown's companion pieces, Spirituality Totems 1 and 2, where, according to Ross, Brown uses roller-printed Kente applied to the surface of his painted originals. While African-American fine artists are celebrating Ghanaian roots in Black American culture, there is a heavy sartorial influence within the Ghanaian American population in the United States, and specifically in Dallas. Peter Owusu, political science major at the University of Texas at Tyler and Ghana native of Fante and Asante heritage, participates in the Kente fashion show in Dallas every summer. He says that the overwhelming amount of Kente is Asante in origin, but weavers from all ethnic groups of Ghana fly to Dallas and drive from Tyler to participate in the festivities. When asked about Kente in his home and family life, he eagerly explains that both he and his wife own woven kente and wear it on all occasions, not just celebration and mourning, and that his daughters own kente printed dresses that they wear to church and family occasions. While kente is making its way into the United States as a more and more accepted art form, stretching its weaves around the globe, it is doing just that even in Ghana with tourists, or colloquially known as in Accra, the capital city, internationals. An international and the University of Ghana's International Students Hostel will quickly come in contact with the dorm's in-house seamstress, Mame Efta. She sells a myriad of kente and adinka prints that she sews into dresses, pants, dress shirts, backpacks, and anything imaginable to young women and men coming to study in her home country. In this case, the diaspora is coming to Ghana, and Ghana is ready and willing to welcome interests in their art forms. She keeps her prints, the affordable alternative that is taking kente from ceremonial use to contemporary, fashionable art, lining the walls and always fully stocked. When one is removed for crafting apparel, she takes one from her meter-high stack and fills the empty place. In an interview, she speaks negatively of cultural appropriation, but not in the sense that we understand in the United States. She says that in Ghana, there is no such thing as cultural appropriation. There is only the sharing of art back and forth from one culture to another in simple celebration. Her shop not only offers Ghanaian prints, but Belisco and Yinka Shinavari prints as well. She welcomes both Dutch and Nigerian textiles, respectively, insisting that her career is shared by the world art form as a whole. Mame Efta is an example of all three of the developmental facets modernizing kente and adinka cloth in Ghana. She is a female tailor, where most tailors in Ghana are men. She owns her own clothing designs, and she is welcoming the diaspora into her shop and actively advocating her own artistic thumbprint in her country's modern evolution of the textile art forms. Ghana's kente and adinka cloth industries experience many struggles to this day and growing pains as its collectivistic and folklore roots come to terms with the social advances of the 21st century. But how the many nuances develop show the complexity of how weaving and stamping have become an art form within the culture and history as a trade. While oral history is still regarded as true, govern who can weave in many places, and intellectual property law is slow to expand past the music business, Ghana is taking strides every single day and every moment with every weft and weave to push this forward. Thank you. Questions? Yes?
How would you describe a question that we have been discussing in aesthetics class, and Sydney Wilson's in aesthetics this semester, is the difference between folk art and fine art, and even the definition of art. Is there a hierarchy, or is it a large enough to embrace folk elements? And when I look at the prints from Mame Efua's
Yes.
shop, and I see that there's backpacks with the prints, I do see, or can there be a difference between that and then what you were showing James Phillips' paintings?
Mm-hmm.
Do you see them as extensions of one art form, or is there a difference between the fine art and the trade, or as you described it, the art and the trade?
I think that depends if you're asking Sydney as a UT Tyler student or Sydney as a University of Ghana student.
Okay.
And here in Texas, I do see a difference as between fine art and visual culture, of course. But when I was abroad, I tried as much to embrace that collectivism as possible, and there is no hierarchy in Ghana. You see it all as pretty much the same thing because the people offer it together as one whole. So, yeah, it's all the same there. But here I notice a big difference, and I think as Ghana moves into the 21st century even farther, they're going to run into that problem as more tourists and immigrants to Ghana kind of are participating in our world.
Thank you.
Oh, yes?
I'm curious just about the gender roles in the weaving specifically, and comparatively to other cultures where weaving is predominantly a female
Right.
aspect. And I guess I was wondering, like, when you went there, did you see kind of like I mean, is there going to be kind of a resurgence of more female aspects in that, in the weaving aspect?
It's really slow, and I never saw one woman actually weaving. These articles and people I interviewed were like, oh yes, well my sister or my aunt or my mom weaves, but you go to Banyere, and this is like the kente place in Ghana. It's the village, and every home has its little setup. There's no women. I was allowed to participate in weaving, but that comes from an Anglophilia left by Britain when they receded in 1957 and let Ghana out of the Commonwealth realm. So it's very, very slow, and I don't think that even in my own lifetime, if I were to go back, I would see that increasing presence outside of the capital.
I have one more question. It came to me as you were talking about the reason that women weren't allowed, and because of the pollution coming from administration. But are royal women allowed to wear the cloth?
Yes, they're allowed to wear it, and actually I will show you. So this woman here, yes, you can wear it. You just can't weave it, per se.
Okay.
She is an Amon Hene, so a lesser chief's wife, in the village of Okrasi, which is about an hour and a half out of the capital city of Accra. She's wearing kente, and you can't really see. This is her, well, they're queen mothers, so they're not the wives necessarily. They're the mothers, sisters, cousins, and aunts of the royal family. He just came from a funeral, and so the Amon Hene himself was wearing funerary kente. But no, they can't weave it, but they can wear it all they want. It's worn as a wrapper, typically by a female, that's tucked under the arms. So this is Pate Fatan Kuruma, which is a kente cloth specifically for women. And so that's what she is doing. And she has a much shorter one because it was very hot outside, but you wrap it underneath and kind of tuck it. Thank you very much.